We go to Evan Bayh. He's the Democratic senator from Indiana. Today he'll be playing the role of a Republican through and through. See if you can tell the difference between him and a Republican at all. He's going to talk to Chuck Todd on Savannah Guthrie. First, he's talking to Todd. Clip number 3.
You know, yesterday the census came out and said 1 in 7 Americans are living below the poverty line. Do you look at that story today? You know, you open up your USA Today, right, and you see that story, and you see Washington is debating tax cuts, the tax rates for the wealthy, and you sit there and say, isn't that a disconnect in America right now?
It is a disconnect, Chuck. What we need to be focusing on is growth. How do we create jobs? How do we expand businesses? That needs to be job one right now. And all these other issues involving fairness and things like that can wait. It's a lot easier to be fair and equitable when your economy is growing and incomes are rising than it is when things are stagnant the way they are today. So I think we need to focus on jobs and growth.
All right, you understand what the issue is? They're debating the tax cuts for the top 2%, because Obama says, I'm already giving tax cuts to everybody else. Just the top 2%, they shouldn't get a tax cut. It's going to destroy our budget, right? Evan Bayh, a so-called Democrat from Indiana, comes out and says, fairness, that's for later. Don't be ridiculous.
We saw him struggling to figure out what to say, and he settled on, and we shouldn't be discussing fairness.
Okay. No. This isn't time for fairness. This is time to give the rich more money, right? And he says, yeah, there is a disconnect. You know, there's a lot of people in poverty. Hence, let's give the top 2% more tax cuts.
Yeah, well, of course, what they're talking about is extending the tax cut, as you'll see from the next clip, that sort of idea that it seems like like killing the Bush tax cut will seem like a tax raise, that's already worked, as from Savannah Guthrie's question. You're going to run that clip or no?
Yes, let's go to that next, clip number 4.
What do you think should happen with the tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans? Obviously, the president thinks that they should not be extended because it's too expensive. It would cost $700 billion. A lot of people, including some of your fellow Democrats, say, look, this is no time to raise taxes. And let's face it, effectively, that's how it would feel to folks. Right. It's not going to feel like a tax cut. It's keeping the status quo. And if you let it expire, it feels like the taxes are going up. I mean, where do you come down on this?
Well, it not only would feel like it, they in fact would go up.
Yeah.
So I'm in the second camp, Savannah, for the following reasons, although with a caveat I'll explain. That 2%, those are the people who make the hiring decisions, who make the investing decisions, who account for 30% of consumption. We want them doing more hiring, more investing, and at least hanging in there from a consumption standpoint. Raising their taxes right now, when the economy is this weak, that substantively is not the smart thing to do. But let me just finish. We got a huge deficit problem.
Yeah.
Once the economy is growing more robustly, then we can pivot, and if Democrats agree to restrain spending, then you can look at those rates. But that's how it ought to happen.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because you know that it's a Democratic talking point that those tax rates affect only 2 or 3% of small businesses. You disagree with that?
Well, directly, but those are the people who I said who make the majority of the hiring. They're sitting there, can I afford to hire more people? Do I want to make these investments? And if we just add to their burdens right now, it increases their uncertainty, their anxiety. They're less likely to do the things we want them to do.
Well, I got an idea. Why don't we just give everybody making more than $250,000, let's cut their taxes in half. And then they'll hire everyone and invest all their money, and we'll be out of this mess. And like the money that they make, their wealth, I don't know, they'll have all this money, right? Like they're up here, they're the rich, and they have all this money. And then the money they make, they'll invest and they'll hire people, and it will sort of trickle down, sort of.
Wait a minute.
To everybody else.
Genius idea, except I thought we tried that, and what happened?
It worked, I think.
Oh, no, right. I thought it was going to work, except we got a giant financial collapse in 2008.
But there are many economists. Oh, no, none.
Oh, no, none of things. All right, look, here's all the things. First of all, they're like, if you cut if you raise the taxes for the folks, what are you, Bill O'Reilly? The folks, the top 2% are the folks, right? Mm-hmm. And then she says, by
the way, we're not talking about raising their rates to like 50%. We're talking about just removing by the way, there were like a series of tax cuts. We're just talking about removing the last Bush tax cut.
That means that for money they make above $250,000, it gets an extra 3% tax. That's it!
3% tax that they already used to pay.
Under Clinton, when the economy was awesome.
Right. They already used to pay this 3% on money above $250. 3% more than they pay.
And so she says later, hey, well, isn't it true that you say they take the money and create jobs, but it's actually only 3% of the small businesses, job creators, that get affected by this? He says, well, directly, but indirectly, that money gets funneled to me. I mean, it's very important for the rich to get really big because they invest here. Except, as we've covered on the show before, they don't. You know where all the giant tax cuts went? They went abroad because it's logical. They made investments in China and other places, $1.9 trillion worth of investments abroad. Yes, it did lead to more jobs in China and India. Okay, so it's not going to accomplish that objective. And then he adds dismissively at that, well, you know, perhaps we can consider the deficit issues. And this son of a bitch has been pretending to care about the deficit his whole career. Now he's going to blow a huge hole in it. He says, well, perhaps we can care about that later if the Democrats will restrain their spending. What are you? I thought you were a Democrat.
I know. I mean, he couldn't sound more like John Boehner. He couldn't sound more like Jim DeMint. Except he doesn't sound like a racist, so he doesn't sound like Jim DeMint.
Yeah, no, Evan Bayh has never cared about you. Never. All he cared about was getting rich. And he's about to retire, and I guarantee you he will be hired for millions of dollars by one of these groups, lobbyists, Wall Street, whatever it might be, business interests, and they will pay him to be an advisor.
No, I think he's going to go work for a progressive watchdog group.
All right, one more from Bayh. Clip number 5.
But even if I can just make one political point, as Democrats, we should care about the deficit. But just to go out and say our only answer to solving the deficit is just to raise taxes, I think that plays into the Republicans' hands. We need to show that we're for spending responsibility. And you know, a lot of the people I talk to who would be affected by this, they say, look, I'm patriotic. I want to help the country. I know we have a deficit. But if my taxes go up and it's just going to more spending I don't agree with, well, that's a different equation for them.
Well, I think, you know, that's what I would do if I were a First of all, these guys, they're so slick. Like, again, I wouldn't buy a car from that guy. He could offer me a brand new car for $500. I know that car's wheels are going to come off 1.5 miles from the lot. I mean, you know, so here's what I would do if I were a politician. I would find one guy. I would ask him what he thinks, and then I would base all my policy decisions based on what that one guy says, especially if he starts his sentence with, well, I'm patriotic. Yeah. But if you do anything I disagree with, then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not. So one guy he's talking about, a guy who clearly makes more than $250,000 a year. So what that one guy said is, if you raise my taxes over $250,000 a year by 3%, if you spend it on anything that I don't agree with, I'm not going to hire anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Now, a couple of things.
Okay, I won't do. I'll do whatever you say.
He said a lot of people I talk to that are in that group. Meaning, he talks to a lot of folks that are very rich.
Folks.
Okay.
Folks.
And but that part is true, because that's who he's surrounded by. All those rich folks are like, oh, no. And they're like, now, I'm patriotic and would normally pay my taxes, but if I disagree with anything you're spending it on, no deal. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really? You're going to get 100% agreement? Look, you know what? I hate some of the stuff we spend our taxes on. The defense contractor nonsense, the bailouts, I hate it. What? So what? Oh, I don't agree with it. No, I'm not going to pay my taxes. Mm-hmm. Nope. And then this whole idea, I mean, he sounds exactly like a Republican, because he is, okay? He's a Republican in sheep's clothing, right? He is that, oh, you know what? I'm not going to hire any more jobs unless you cut my taxes, unless you do exactly what I told you. I'm not going to hire any more jobs because I don't want to make more money. My ass. Right. If you thought you could make an extra nickel, you'd hire 100 new guys, okay?
Yeah. I'm going to leave that forklift unmanned as a punishment to you, Evan Bayh.
Yeah, and so I'll make less money to punish you? No, you won't. What a grotesque lie. And, you know, you look at all this stuff, and in the end, I think, you know what, Democrats and Republicans, they're playing good cop, bad cop with this. Yeah. You know, the Republicans come in and say, oh, rich rock, yeah, and they're the bad cop, and they're beating you up, and they're doing dirty tricks. And then Evan Bayh comes and goes, oh, you know what? Don't worry about those Republicans.
I'm sorry.
My partner's out of control.
He drinks.
Yeah. That's okay. Just let's get those tax cuts, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just get them. Come on. Yeah, come on. Give us the tax
It'll be okay.
It's going to be
okay, and I'll keep that guy out of the room.
Yeah. He's crazy. He's crazy. Just vote for me, and we'll get the tax cuts. Everybody get tax cuts, okay? All right, we're agreed. That's the routine.